Anyway, good evening and welcome. It is time once again for CU Immigration here on WRFU LP Urbana 104.5 FM. I will be your host for this evening. My name is Mr. Garza, and I'm here to let you know that WRFU is an open forum for the Urbana-Champaign community. That views expressed are those of the speakers and are not intended to represent WRFU, UCIMC, or the Urbana Socialist Forum. These views are our own, and by our in this instance, I mean my charming guests who have somehow diminished since the last week. I guess one of them couldn't come back. I hope we can talk her into showing up and speaking to us, because there's an empty chair and microphone there. But anyway, welcome to the show. We were speaking last week about feeling safe and about your project. Tell me again, just for those who haven't kept track, about your project. This is, you guys are studying immigrant-owned businesses in Urbana, right? In the city of Urbana. So how are you studying them exactly? I mean, like, what is the process that you go through?
Well, it's very basic. We go into these businesses, try to find their managers or their owners and schedule an interview. A lot of the times they're really busy, so it's been hard getting interviews. And then we sit down with them on that scheduled day and talk for an hour, hour and a half. Some run longer, some are really short, and we ask them different kinds of questions about some basic stat type of questions about the business, when they started it, how many employees they have, etc., etc. And then we do open-ended questions about what they like about the place, and how was the beginning of this business, and when did they come up with the idea. These kinds of open-ended questions we talk to them about, and then with those interviews we bring those together, compile them, and try to see if there are any connecting themes, and if we can categorize them in different groups. And so we do an analysis and try to understand how business owners and immigrant entrepreneurs are contributing and negotiating with creating opportunities and running their businesses, and what are the circumstances they're facing, and how they're making their way through that. Yeah.
So this is a class in urban planning, correct? So what you're looking at this topic basically from the idea of how do these businesses fit into the urban landscape, so to speak.
Yes.
How do they fit? How well are they fitting? Is it a good fit, or is it an awkward fit? That kind of thing. So that the questions are taken from that sort of perspective. Is that correct? Okay. Are you finding? You said you were looking for common themes. Are you finding common themes? I mean, last week we talked about. Sorry,
That's okay.
I'm keeping the fiction alive here that the whole week has gone by, even though we're wearing the same clothes.
We are changed. We're new people.
Yeah, we're new people. Anyway, last week one of the things we were talking about is the fact that the area that you were studying in particular that you had heard rumors was unsafe, but yet you didn't feel unsafe there, and the business owners did. So that is a common theme that you found. Were there any other things like that were surprising to you? That were like, I had no idea.
I won't say surprising, but one of the things that kept coming up in a lot of the interviews were actually a lot of the immigrant business owners do a lot of support in the community. They support a lot of the local schools. They support, whether it's sponsoring events or supporting some of the campus initiatives, or even the local community initiatives as well. Whether it's, again, through financing or sponsoring an event, or contributing their time and talent, particularly to an event. So they were really gracious and very giving, very giving. One of the questions that was asked was, if you were given a grant, $10,000 or more, what would you do with those funds? And I would say 99% of the time, all of them said we would give to somebody else. They rarely say anything about their own stores or expanding. We'll have multiple sites and things like that. So when we talked last week about this whole taking away from jobs and whatnot, I would counter that argument by what we found in our research, that a lot of our immigrant business owners are very supportive of the communities here and what the community is trying to achieve. So
I'll add another point to that, which is not only through donations to organizations and services, but also through what we're seeing is that, particularly for restaurants, they buy a lot of their raw materials locally. So they support locally grown products and other local businesses by working with them. So that's another way they kind of feed back into the cycle, the local economic cycle. So that's another important, I think, way that they contribute.
Well, I think there's actually a huge thing that's going on here that what I've seen over the last maybe decade or so is what I would call the Walmartization of business, which is this idea that big companies keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until all you have are a handful of big companies that do everything. And that's kind of taken over the American business scene. But what it sounds like you're saying is that these people are coming in and acting as sort of a counterweight to that. They're doing what business always did, which is, I'm in this community, I've got this idea, I've got some customers here, I think I can sell you on this idea. If you will each pay me, you can be on this radio show here, and we'll start this thing, and I'll help you, you help me, I'm part of your community, you're part of my community. That's a very, at least in America, that's a very old-fashioned way of doing things.
That's the people business, Tom. I think that's again going back to that topic. That's the people business.
Yeah.
A sense of community building is being able to say, hey, okay, I've got this, you got that. Let's see how we can work this thing together. We may not arrive at the same level of success, but at least we're both working together. At this point, and I may be wrong, your listeners can call the station and let us know. I can't find a fresh hot tamale from Walmart or
Really?
Meijer or some of the other bigger stores within the city. But I can find it if I go to Rick's Bakery.
Yeah.
Fresh, hot, very soothing to the taste, So those types of things. So when we're talking about these local businesses, they're contributing. That sense of value, it has to go beyond the economic aspect. There's a sense of taste and touch and feeling that reaches the human aspect of this people business that these local businesses have really brought back up, as you were talking about. So
I wanna add to what Susan is saying, that one particular instant that really struck me and it moved me a lot was when we're talking to this business owner, and he says that no matter who comes into my shop, that person should be able to buy something. So I have to cater to anybody who walks into my shop. So I adjust my prices. I make things different. I have something for everybody in my shop. So that kind of ethic, that kind of engagement with who are the neighborhood, the community, it's rare. That was my first time hearing that, so those kind of things. But then again, I wanted to add to something what you said about that they act as a counterweight to what's going on, the Walmartization process. And I want to say that's a bit too hopeful. That's a bit too hopeful.
Okay.
And I don't know if they're really a counterweight in the sense that they still need a lot more support. Local businesses need a lot of support, and they need to be encouraged. They need to be given more incentives, and I think we will get to that in our conversation at some point. But I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I am optimistic by nature. I think I like the idea of people just looking around them and going, oh, well, people, like you're saying, these are just people. Let's make friends. Let's see what we can learn from each other and grow from there instead of this. Yeah.
I think local businesses have that personal touch.
Mm-hmm.
That big conventional corporation type businesses don't necessarily bring. I can go into certain shops, whether it's the hair braiding shop or whether it's the Mexican restaurant on the corner or what have you. There's a personal touch to that, because if I go and frequent those businesses often, whether it's my family or with myself or what have you, they get to know my face, they get to know my name, they get to know me, and there's that personal feel. Whereas I walk into Walmart, the greeter that was there last hour might not be the same greeter the next hour that I might still be there if I'm shopping, for more than an hour or two, So there's a sense of person-to-person feeling, I think, that the local business aspect brings, again, as I was saying, that maybe the corporations don't bring.
Well, what they bring, I think, is access to, how can I put this? Access to something that you can't really get on a small scale. Like I have a cell phone. In order to operate that successfully wherever I go, I have to sign up with a contract with some big service provider that's nationwide, kind of thing. I don't really want to work with them. I would rather not. But in order to use this product, which is really convenient, I have to. I can't go to Bud's cell phone shop down the street and say, okay, sign me up. He can't connect me anywhere except in a block from his business. I need that in order to do that. So what I think they do is big corporations offer this grand scale of service, like big banks, like anywhere in the world you can take your bank card and go to an ATM and get money. It's this convenience for the world traveler, for the sophisticate. But there are limits to that. I mean, if you've ever tried to call your cell phone provider and talk to somebody about something, it's really hard. And the same thing goes, this is the same argument that people have about getting the government involved. Like, well, you don't want the government in charge of your health care because then it's this massive bureaucracy. And yet they gleefully go to, I'm trying to avoid naming names, but such and such cell phone company and such bank and such, that are huge bureaucracies that you can't talk to anybody anyway. So it's funny that the same people that are saying we need smaller government are saying we need bigger business, which is it's just switching this, who's the big entity you have to deal with.
And I think that's why when we started this conversation, it was about the immigrant business owners.
Mm-hmm.
Really looking at that particular group that's contributing to the larger conversation about immigration within the United States. So I think when we still talk about the local businesses versus the large corporations, immigrant business owners are panning out a voice in that, as we're doing and collecting the data and analyzing the data now for our research. So,
I was going to just bring up that also big corporations and small government don't go hand in hand, in the sense that the bigger these corporations are getting, the more government supported they are.
Oh yeah.
Through subsidies, through different kinds of regulations to help them out somehow, and public money is going into them through the government. So bigger corporations, I don't think necessarily means smaller government, because government still functions, except that it functions for the benefit of those big corporations.
Exactly, and I was mostly speaking using the lingo of certain political groups who shall remain nameless, who like to peddle the fiction that therefore smaller government and free business, free market. There's nothing free about the market, and there never has been, and it's getting less and less free. Free market is what we're talking about here. People come in like, I'm going to start a business. What do I know how to do? Well, I'm pretty good with nails, so I'm going to start a nail shop. So I'll find a little spot, buy some supplies, put a sign out. That's the free market right there. Then the government comes in and goes, oh, you can't do that. You've got to be licensed. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. You've got to do this other thing. And before you know it, the market is far from free. And it's not just the government. Part of the reason they're doing it is they're reacting to the other businesses. I mean, we have this thing with, what's the name of the company that provides rides that you can get? Uber, yeah. Taxi businesses are lobbying in a big way to say, well, no, you got to, keep them from competing with us.
Everybody wants a piece of the pie, Tom. Everybody does. So what we have to do as a society is we have to figure out how we're going to cut the pie. First of all, decide what kind of pie we want to make.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
And then after I personally advocate for caramel apple.
Oh.
I like it.
Cherry.
But, or cheesecake or what have you, whatever your dessert is, but we have to figure out what the dessert is,
right,
and how we're going to cut that up so that everybody gets a piece of the pie. Because when everybody gets a piece of the pie, you're happy, and we all know, good food makes people happy. So how can we incorporate that same logic, in a sense, within these conversations that we're having?
Yeah, go ahead.
I wonder.
I'm at a loss for words.
Yeah.
I'll turn it over to you.
I'm just thinking about pies right now, but I think you brought up something really important, though, and that takes us back to the immigration issue, because an immigrant business owners issue, that a lot of these small businesses and local businesses are functioning without much support.
Yes.
In fact, against a lot of odds. One of them that I immediately thought about when you mentioned permits.
Yeah.
So the process of getting a permit, the process of getting certified to do business, it's a hard process for an immigrant, particularly if you are not speaking English. And that's something that we have been learning about, and I don't know how much details we have to offer at this interview, but this has been that's been another consistent kind of theme that we are seeing, that the permitting process, getting a certification, has been a struggle for many of these business entrepreneurs, and many of them started businesses that did not exist here. They started shops that were not on offer, the kinds of products that they're giving. We also have business entrepreneurs who are training their employees with skills that nobody offers in this area.
Right.
So they're doing skill training, that and training a lot of people, opening up businesses and creating products, and paying in different kinds of taxes and so on. And they don't have minimal support of getting proper permitting processes, getting certified, and so on. So that's another thing that we're seeing. Suzanne may have more to say.
Well, I think you talked about the support issue. I think that's where I would hang my hat a little bit, because I'm not from here. My family's from East Africa. And so I understand the process of transition. I've lived in the United States for a very long time. So there's a lot of adjustment that goes on regardless of how young you are or how old you are. And so as we interviewed these business owners, I could relate to their stories. And one, you're transitioning in terms of who you are as a person. Many of the immigrant business owners have had to, in a sense, reinvent themselves. Very highly educated from their universities back home, but they can't translate those their degrees here. Right. So in a sense, they reinvent themselves, which turns out for a lot of them starting a new business. But also, in a sense, now you're adjusting your sense of identity, you're adjusting your sense of communication and understanding and ways of how to deal with people. So it's a lot of transition that's going on, multiple transitions, I should say. And so that support is so key. We asked many of the business owners if they know about Urbana's business initiatives or support initiatives or anything like that. And many of them said they just were not aware. Not that they didn't want to know, but they just didn't know that it was available. And so I think part of that support means giving information, correct information, those who are here to be willing to lend a helping hand in saying, okay, I know what it's like to start a business, so let me, this is what we can offer you in terms of, business support or what have you, that kind of thing. So I think that's where I would really hang a lot of, where I'm pushing support initiatives to occur. Not just the frequenting of businesses itself or soliciting the products itself, but also going behind and saying, okay, this is what's going on, whether it's translating something into a different language, whether it's making the permit process easier, the licensing process easier, whether it's holding information sessions with business owners, or whatever the case may be. So,
let me make sure I understand what you're saying, and can talk at the same time. Sorry. Are you saying that there is support that exists that they're just not being made aware of,
Absolutely.
or that there is no support of the sort that's needed, or a little both?
I think I would say a little bit of both.
Okay,
I would say a
so
little bit of both.
it's partly that there's support that's available that they're just not aware of because of the language,
Yes.
or they don't know the system well enough to
Yes.
play it, and partly because there's a special kind of support that they need that there just doesn't exist at all.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So the combination of those two is pretty daunting in terms of
Yes.
like what you have to overcome.
Yes. I look at myself as I'm a PhD student.
Mhm.
As a student at the university, there's a number of support services available to help me navigate through that
Right.
system. So in the same way, if I spoke another language, I can assure you there's a department of linguistics that will make sure that instructions are, written in language that I can understand, and also me being challenged to learn English as well. So in the same way, in the same kind of thought process.
So the campus, the university has fought is too strong a term, but has worked through some of these problems for their students and figured out a mechanism for them. So as you're saying, as a student, you can come here and go, oh, I don't know how to do this. You know who to go to
Right.
at least ask how to do it.
Exactly.
And they'll send you to where.
Exactly.
But the city
Exactly.
has no system like that. Just
I don't
that
think,
you know.
I don't even want to say that we don't have that in place. I think there's a disconnect, at least from the research that we're finding, there's a disconnect in communication. So once that bridge is built a little bit stronger of communication between business owners and the cities, then I think there will be a much, much smoother level of value and understanding and process going through.
Yeah, well, not much to add to that except that you're right. I mean, if there are support services, what we're finding is that business owners are not quite sure what those are. They often don't have much to say when we ask them, "What's your relationship with the city? Do you know of any business organizations that you're part of? What's your relationship with the Chamber of Commerce?" There isn't an existing relationship. We don't find much, and so. Certainly, there is a Chamber of Commerce, there are business organizations, and so there needs to be a linking up, I suppose, or we need to find ways to connect them to those structures and find channels through which that can happen. So definitely quite a bit of work to be done. Of course, all for the benefit of the city, really, because the stronger these local businesses get, the better it is for the customer base, the better it is for the community, the better it is for the neighborhoods surrounding them. It's better for the city as a whole to help these businesses grow.
Have you talked to many people at the city, in the government, city government?
Not yet. We haven't yet finished our report, which will be done with May 12th. Yeah, May 12th. And then we have a presentation. We have invited city officials and other people from different organizations, and we hope to present all our findings that day. And we're looking forward to a positive response.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what kind of reaction you get, whether they're open, like, oh, I didn't know this is great, or they're kind of defensive, like, well, we've got our stuff going, if they need to figure out how to come to it, just how they're going to react. I don't know. Should be interesting.
That's what we're waiting for.
Well, we're rapidly approaching the end of our second half hour.
Okay.
On WRFU LP Urbana 104.5 FM and UPTV. Any closing thoughts? Anything that you want to say here in the next 5 or 6 minutes?
I would, again, my name is Susan,
Mhm.
and I have the opportunity to share with work with a lot of the African community here within the cities and abroad. So I would just encourage Champaign-Urbana to be looking out for some of the things that's going to be happening within the African community. And also, as I work with my church as well, Glory Center International, as I work with CU Immigration Forum and Midwest Mundane African Drum and Dance Festival.
Oh.
There's so many things happening. Also, Africa Fest coming up, planning going on for the summer. So we want to infuse the community even more about those wonderful cultural expositions, if you will, that's coming up. And just also, again, as a graduate student, just being able to help kind of bring some voice to some of those things that's happening out there. So.
Do you get a lot of people just from the surrounding community come into these kinds of events?
We do. It's a growing number. As I said, I've had the opportunity to connect with quite a few groups that have asked myself and others to come together to bring some things together. So I think the community is, in a sense, kind of groaning and wanting to see some new things happening. They know something's different about the city, but, just look out for the summer and the upcoming rest of the year to see what we've got planned for you.
I don't know. I'll be around, I guess. I'll figure what else is going on. But, so as far as your project goes, you were saying that you present your findings on May 12th?
Yes.
Is this open to the public?
I would say currently, right now, I believe it is. If it is not, we will let you know, Tom. But May 12th, Pizza M from 3 to 5 p.m. It would be great to be able to get support from the community to hear about some of our findings, because we've really been very strategic about the different areas in Urbana, particularly.
So May 12th, 3 to 5, where?
Pizza M, which is downtown Champaign. It's a great
Pizza
spot.
M?
Is the cafeteria and the Flying Machine coffee shop, I think they're together.
I know
See,
nothing about it.
local businesses.
Where is it? Pizza?
Pizza
the,
M
like,
is
pizza
it's located
M?
right across the street from, yes,
Pizza
right
M.
across the street from, I believe it's BC Bank. BC Bank. And so you get out of BC Bank parking lot, you look across the street on your left, and it's right there.
Yeah, that's not something.
Well, not really. Nothing more than what Susan had to say. But I mean, once again, I would just invite people who are out there who are listening to us. Please come and support different events and organizations that have been working on issues of immigration, working on issues of local businesses and local efforts to find solutions to the kinds of problems we're facing today. Because at the end of the day, we'll have to figure it out in terms of communities and in terms of community building across cultures, across ethnicities and races. So I think there are some very interesting efforts going on in this city. I mean, Champaign-Urbana in both places, and I think all of these efforts deserve our support.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I hope you all come back again. You have been listening to CU Immigration here on WRFU LP Urbana and UPTV. We will see you next time. Thanks for joining us.